Welcome to the Missouri Leadership Development System On-Demand Principal Leadership Series. I'm Mike Rutherford, and I'm happy to be your host and guide for this on-demand series. The MLDS, Missouri Leadership Development System, is a comprehensive set of professional learning experiences designed by and for Missouri school leaders. This on-demand series is intended to preview, complement, and introduce a few of the nearly 100 leadership lessons that are contained in the Missouri Leadership Development System curriculum. Each episode of our on-demand series will have three components: a short video where I attempt to explain the leadership concept, a PDF file of written materials that will support each lesson, and a podcast so that you can engage with each leadership lesson in a mobile fashion should you decide to do that. We hope you'll find this on-demand series not only convenient and accessible, but also powerful and productive. Information on how you can engage in the full spectrum of MLDS leadership learning can be found at dese.mo.gov. There's also a complete listing of all of the MLDS specialists for your region in the PDF file that accompanies each episode. Thank you for participating. Welcome to the MLDS On-Demand Principal Leadership Series. This is episode 9, Principles of Personal and Professional Sustainability. So here's the dilemma. As a school administrator, to be really good at it, you have to have experience. The job is just too complex and demanding for anyone, except for maybe the luckiest among us, to be excellent at it right out of the box. So experience tracks for success. The other side of that dilemma, though, is that the job of being a school administrator turns out to be so demanding that it encourages rather short careers. So we either burn out and flame out after a few good years, or we stick around until we finally learn how to actually be even more effective. But that's hard to do. Get the dilemma? So here's an insight from looking at and studying and shadowing some of the most effective school administrators over time. Here's something we learn. The best school administrators over time are not workaholics. They actually have a life outside of their job as school leaders. In fact, if we look at the lives of the most productive and the most effective school administrators over time, they're actually pretty good in multiple domains of their life. They have a physical life. They take care of themselves physically. They take time to exercise, to work on strength, to work on cardiovascular fitness, to work on flexibility. They have social lives. They nurture the emotional components of their being with professional colleagues and rich friends and family, and they attend to those because they know that that's really important. Really effective school administrators tend to have a pretty well-developed spiritual life as well. No matter what that means personally to you, the connection to something larger than yourself, at least, perhaps a certain faith that you practice. We know that there are, domains of success in life. And one of the things we notice about the most effective school administrators is they tend to have, multiple domains of effectiveness. So let's do a quick assessment, if you would. Let's just look at those 4 domains of life and just sort of good, better, best. Give yourself a little assessment. Number 1, what about the physical domain of your life? Are you in good shape? Do you eat well? Do you get good sleep? It's hard to imagine how hard to overestimate how important it is in the grueling life of being a school administrator to be in pretty good physical shape. What about your social life? How's it going? Here's sort of a test I think that helps me. Do you have any friends that aren't educators? Now answer that question truthfully. Do you have some rich social and emotionally nurturing networks of friend and family where you can be with those people and not be in your professional educational domain? We talked about number 3, the spiritual domain. How's it going for you in that regard? How grounded are you? How are the seasons of your life unfolding? Do you have a deep and true connection to something bigger than yourself? We know that's important. And finally, the fourth domain we can assess is, how is it going professionally? How's your work? Are you getting older, or are you getting better and better at what you're doing? Here's an insight. As we think about these four domains of being effective, the most effective school administrators, in order to become even more effective and to sustain their growth over time, think of growth rather than balance. Think about it. Rather than saying there's only so many hours in the day, and if I use this amount for my physical development, then I only have this amount left over for my professional development or my spiritual or my social development. Rather than thinking always in terms of balance, sometimes it helps to think in terms of growth. Wouldn't you agree that a physically fit school administrator is going to be more effective also in the professional domain? Wouldn't you agree that a more spiritually developed school administrator, that has impacts on our social and our physical lives as well? Administrators that have supportive and valuable social and emotional networks impacts our spiritual lives. So as we look at the four domains, rather than trying to balance them as if they're a zero-sum pie, where if I have this big a slice in this domain, it cuts down on the amount that's available in another domain, really effective school administrators think in terms rather of growth. When we think of growth, really there are two categories of professional growth for school administrators. One is called differentiation, and the other is called integration. Let's define them. Differentiation means you are becoming a more rare you. You're becoming what? Differentiated from everyone around you. You have a more and more unique set of skills. So this is your personal development, going in the direction that you and only you can go. The second level of growth is called integration, and this is where you get better and better at integrating with other people. You're more interdependent, you're more collaborative. The group's work becomes better and better because of the group members' participation in that work. I have a quote here I'd like to share with you from Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, author of the book Flow, The Psychology of Optimal Experience. Csikszentmihalyi says this: "It is by becoming increasingly complex that the self might be said to grow." Okay? We're thinking about growth. Complexity is the result of two broad psychological processes: differentiation and integration. Differentiation implies a movement toward uniqueness, towards separating oneself from others. Growth in differentiation leaves one a more unique individual. You are less predictable, possessed of rarer skills. Integration refers to its opposite, a union with other people, with ideas and entities beyond the self. A complex self, Csikszentmihalyi says, is one that succeeds in combining these opposite tendencies, both integration and differentiation. So as we think about our principles for personal and professional sustainability, our ability to stick with this career and this profession long enough to really get good at it, here are three principles to remember. Number one, don't be one-dimensional. Don't be a workaholic. The very best exemplars of leadership in education have lives outside of education. Seek to be like them. Attend to your physical life, to your spiritual life, to your social life. Don't be a workaholic. Don't say to yourself, I just have to keep my nose to the grindstone just for a season, and surely in the future things will lighten up a bit and I'll get to broaden my interests. It just won't happen, will it? Number two, rather than going for balance, think growth. Rather than saying there's only 24 hours in the day, if I give this much to this activity, I have to only have this much for that activity. Think growth rather than balance. And finally, number three, as you're thinking about growth to enhance your personal and your professional sustainability, think about growth, think about both differentiation becoming rarer, a more unique form of yourself, and think about integration, being ever more effective as you join with others. Hopefully, you'll be able to, using those principles, stay in the game long enough to figure out how to be really good at it. Thanks for participating.